Hey guys, Phainon is finally here. Because his kit is incredibly complicated, I will try to condense it to the best of my ability. As always, these will be the topics and sections for this video. Feel free to skip to the part that you prefer to watch. How to play Phainon? Well, most people won't read, that's why you're watching a video, right? Me included actually. You just use his skill to get 2 stacks of Core Flame, same like Jing Liu you skill for Syzygy. Then you have his team buff him with abilities that target him. Okay guys, to explain more about this targeting, right, anything that has a crosshair, okay, so you see if I use Hyacinth skill as a crosshair, it will count as a Core Flame for Phainon. So as long as you see a crosshair, it works, okay? So you see Bronya, crosshair, it works. And you see Bronya's out, right? Okay, there's a crosshair, even though it targets everybody, it counts as you are targeting Phainon. And the same thing, Gallagher, when he heals, okay, there's a crosshair, it does work. Okay, and for Ranmei, right, because the skill only targets Ranmei and it cannot target Phainon, it does not count. However, her ultimate, there's a crosshair, it counts. So, you get 12 Core Flames, which is the number on his ultimate, much like your Acheron and your Fei Xiao needing, 9 and 6 stacks. Then, his true kit begins when he uses his ultimate. Other ways to get Core Flame is to be targeted by enemies, but if you're targeted by allies instead, he does get a 30% crit damage buff for 3 turns, so it's better to build Core Flame through allies. During the ultimate, he summons his own territory like Casteris. Then, he becomes My Day.
What?
Immune to crowd control and can't actually die. If he does die, however, he will restore 25% of his HP and use the final hit attack, and then his ultimate ends.
What?
You don't want this to happen because for every turn he has left, your final hit damage is reduced. So you want to use all of his turns. He then gets an attack buff and has increased max HP. Then, similar to Yunli, after he attacks, he will restore 20% of his HP. Any attack. Finally, applies physical weakness to all enemies. Note that you do not get the rest down, unlike with Silver Wolf. I know that's a lot to take in, okay? A lot of things happen when you press this out. So after you press this out, right, he has 3 buttons. Very confusing. Don't worry, okay? To simplify, Q equals basic, W equals skill, and E equals out. For easier understanding, since we are familiar with these 3 terms, so your Q is better for 1 to 2 targets, your W is better for AoE, and your E is your bounce attack, like Yunli, Aventurine, Casteris, etc. Okay, I have to explain W and E in more detail because they are more than just a skill and do damage. W is a counter, like Yunli and Clara. You action advance all the mobs on the field, and then you give yourself 1 stack of Soul Scorch. Note that this is a different buff from Scorch, okay? Whenever the mob attacks or takes action, you gain 1 stack of Soul Scorch. Once they are done attacking or moving, Phainon will counter, and for each stack of Soul Scorch, the counter's multiplier increases by 20%. So you see why you want to use W in an AoE setting like Pure Fiction. For your E skill, he will dispel all debuffs on himself, and for every stack of Scorch, you will do 4 bounces. If you use E with at least 4 Scorch, you will do an additional 450% damage to all enemies. Okay, but how do I get these Scorch stacks? When you out, you get 4 for free. When you use Q, you get 2 stacks. And then when you use your W, it gives you stacks based on how many enemies on the field. On his final action, the final hit will be deployed and he exits the territory and the ultimate state. The team will then get a 15% speed buff. So how to play? You just simply cycle between Q or W depending on how many mobs are on the field. When the Scourge stacks hit 4, use E, and for the best value, you can wait until 6 or 7 stacks. Reason is if you're at 6, you'll overcap from the next queue, so you don't want to wait for 7. Else, you can just use it at 4. His stat tracers are really good. 37.3% crit damage, 12% crit rate, 5 speed. Ascension Tracers, A2, when the battle starts, he gains 1 core flame. When ultimate ends, he gets 3 core flames. A4, when he gets heal or shield, you get a 45% damage buff. This is not very important now because you want to run him sustainless. When he gets energy from an ability, okay, note that it says ability, so you cannot use Light Cone like QPQ, and you cannot use like relic sets to gain energy. You will get 1 extra core flame. So when Tingyun gives energy to Phainon, you actually generate 2 core flames. One from casting the ultimate and another from the energy that is given by the ultimate. A6, when entering battle or when his ultimate ends, he gets 50% attack, stacks up to twice, and it lasts for the whole fight. Technique, Acheron got power crab.
Oh no!
Instead of killing one mob, you kill all the mobs in front of you within a certain radius. It does use 2 technique points, which is fine because he can actually expand his technique points above the 5 count. And like Acheron, if you hit nothing, you don't lose points. If you can't one-shot them, you will enter battle. So like elites and bosses, everyone on the team gets 25 energy. You gain 2 Scorch, which you will stay until you use your ultimate, and then you will still get the 2. So you will get 4 plus 2. Then the mobs get damaged with a physical attack. This energy, 25 energy, it can help his teammates get the turn 1 out, and it gives the skill point you desperately need for the turn 1 setup for Phainon's own ultimate. Alright, for Phainon's vertical investment, Phainon's Light Cone, 12 speed, very helpful for your speed boots builds, 18% ignore defense, pretty nice if you already have defense shred like Sunday's E1 or Cypher's Light Cone. Else this 18% defense ignore is not really that significant because you want to stack more defense ignore to be better. And after using his ultimate, he gets a 60% damage buff. It says here remove at the start of their turn, but because he doesn't actually get turns during his ultimate, they are extra turns, not considered as real turns. So they actually remove when his ult ends. E1, for every kill during his ultimate, his speed conversion to his extra turns, right, he gets 1.5% for every kill, up to 84%. And after he uses ultimate, he gets 50% crit damage. E2, the super strong one, 20% physical respect. Usually you see this on E6. When he consumes 4 Scrooge during his ultimate to use E, gain 1 extra turn. What this means is, you probably never want to keep until 7 stacks and always use your E when you hit 4. There is no limit to this extra turn, so you can keep getting 4 stacks. Use your E to get another turn, get another 4 stacks, rinse and repeat. E4, when using W, you gain 4 Soul Scorch. Remember, this is Soul Scorch, not Scorch, okay? And finally, E6. The core flame has no more cap. Limitless. Yes, you can stack to infinity just like the shape of Amphorius. When battle starts, he gets 6 core flames. After using E, he gains a 3B E1 of 36% true damage to the highest HP monster. Now, the burning question with every character, E1 or S1. As they are both quite close in power, I would pick S1. It is easier to win the 75-25 compared to 50-50. Also, Light Cones can be shared between characters, while Eidolons are tied to Phainon forever. Although, if you want the best for your Phainon, go for E1 and eventually E2, as that's the best Eidolon in the game right now. However, in my opinion, E0-S0 works fine. As this game's power creep is getting more and more insane, I really advise against vertical investment, especially for DPS characters. Unless he's your favorite character, then sure, by all means, don't let me stop you. Phainon's teams. Okay, his teams are very flexible. You want to run sustainless. However, if you do prefer a sustain, then the only sustains that can target Phainon will work. Example, Woho, Hyacinth, and Gallagher. The only shielder that works will be Preservation March, but I don't know about that one. The best characters to use with Phainon would be Sunday and Bronya because of their 100% action advance. For the 4th slot, I recommend either Ting Yun or Yu Kong and just go sustainless, as I said. Yes, Yu Kong is finally back. You still have to speed tune her before Phainon outs though. So an ideal setup is Sunday, then Bronya, then Phainon, and then before you use your ultimate, you let Yu Kong use the buffs. Then you use the ultimate of Phainon. So Yu Kong can be like 1 speed slower than Bronya. Yeah, as you can see, speed tuning is still a nightmare for this character. Ting Yun is amazing here, especially with the instant out that you can do at the very start of the battle, alongside Dance to push the whole team up for an earlier setup rotation. Ting Yun's out also gives Phainon a core flame as it gives energy. Here are some honorable mentions. Sparkle works, but I prefer to run Bronya because of the 100% action advance. You could use Sparkle as a 4th member to solve your skill point problems. Cypher, this I like. She's fast, gets you the SP before most of your team will go, so you can get a smoother setup rotation into Phainon's out, especially if you're running speed boots. Her buffs don't require her to do anything, she just needs to exist there, and when Phainon first attacks before outing, you use his skill, right? She will use a fallout attack, right? And then she will apply the light cone's defense down, assuming you have the light cone. Why she is also nice is she can still record the damage done during Phainon's out, despite not being there. So when he exits, you can cypher out for a massive nuke to clean up whoever is left. Fast and furious. Remembrance MC, Ranmei, 3B, and Robin can also work despite generating 0 core flames. Their buffs are very strong, and thanks to the 25 energy Phainon gives the entire team, thanks to his technique at the start, it should be no problem to set up an early Robin out or 3B zone. But like Sparkle, 4th slot. I want to say one thing about RMC though. If you run the 3-star Shadowburn Light Cone, you can get an extra SP at the start to help you out with your SP struggles. Alternatively, one of your support characters can run the 4-piece Passerby. Aside from that, the upcoming character Seridra is also Harmony, and while we do not know what she does, she could be a good 4th member or even a Bronya replacement. For that, we have to wait and see once her kit is revealed to us. Okay, for Phainon's build, Tracers, max everything, he uses them all. If you want priority, skill and basic first, then talent and out. For his light cone, if you don't get his S1, well, you know what to do. Else, the My Day Battle Pass light cone is not bad, but in my opinion, if you're going to buy the Battle Pass for it, you might as well just pull for his signature light cone. Relic sets, 4-piece Wave Strider, 2-piece Arcadia, the new set. Else, if you have 4-piece Scholar or 2-piece Rutilant, they are actually pretty close in power. Main stats, crit rate body, unless you're swimming in only crit rate, then sure, CD body. Attack or speed boots, more on that later. Physical or attack, spear. And rope, always attack. Okay, physical and attack is very close, so pick the one with better substats. For your substats, you want crit rate and crit damage, attack percent. Around 11 to 12 speed if you want to run speed boots without his signature light cone. Attack go, 100 crit rate in battle with Sunday, 180 to 200 plus crit damage, 1 speed faster than Sunday if doing the -1 speed boots method. So minimum 136 speed Phainon, you can hit this easily if you have speed boots and his signature light cone. 135 speed Sunday, 134 speed Bronya. Or if you can tune it down in decimals, 133.4 and lower than 134 Bronya, then you can do 134 Sunday, 135 Phainon. Reason why Sunday first before Bronya is because Bronya's buffs is only 1 turn, unless your Bronya is E6. Okay, why speed boots? Aren't his extra turns based on his base speed and are also fixed? Correct. Having Phainon with speed boots in a -1 setup will allow him 1 extra turn before Sunday to generate an extra 2 core flames. Doing this will let him out quicker and is much better for longer fights. Also, utilizing only Sunday and Bronya for the out setup allows your 4th slot to run a character that can provide stronger buffs but can't generate core flames, such as Chibi, Ranmei, Cypher, or RMC. So let me explain all this in a spreadsheet. Okay, here's a table to better understand why speed boots, okay? So this is an example of Tingyun. You start with 1, okay, then you have 4 SP. Tingyun out plus skill, you get 4 core flames, then Phainon skill, 6, then 9, 11, 13, then 15, right? So now you got 12 and then you got 3 extra. So here, right, in order for this to work, right, Sunday will need either his signature or Bronya S1. Because he loses 1, then he gains 1. If you have either of these. In order to run E0S0 Sunday here without signature or Bronya S1, he has to get hit once. And then you have to use the ultimate first on Phainon to make him BT-fied. Then you can use the skill on Phainon, then you'll get back the skill points. Okay? And then here, Bronya, you will be stuck with 1 left. If you have S1 of Bronya, or you win 50-50 with an E1 Bronya. Because you see, when Phainon ends his turn, you have 1 skill point, right? And then, unless you have this 1 will become 0, and then Phainon will have to use his basic attack. So if you can fulfill this condition, then you can get the skill into out, then you get 15. Okay, so another one with Cypher, or Sustain, Ranmei, Chibi, or Robin. Okay, this is more of a F2P setup, because you see, Sunday and Bronya are both at E0S0. Okay, so start 1 and then 4. Cypher basic, you get the 5. And then Phainon skill, you get 2. Okay, Sunday skill plus out, E0S0, remember? Okay, you get 3. And you see your skill points is steadily going down, very healthy. Phainon skill, you left 2. Bronya skill plus out, you left 1. So just nice, the 1 skill point, Phainon can skill, then you become 0, then you can out. You will not have any 3 extra because you have no Tingyun here to give you 3. You have Cypher. But you do get the Cypher Vow and all that, which is much better than Tingyun. Okay, but if you have Robin, right? Okay, then this thing, right? Cypher becomes like Tingyun, except you don't get the core flame. So you will have to get these 2 to trigger. Just like this one. Okay. So I would say if you have E0S0 Sunday and Bronya, right, it's much better to not run Tingyun because your skill points is more comfortable. Unless you want to run like Passerby or you run RMC with the Shadowburn Lightcone. Okay, now time for Phainon's advantages and disadvantages, or you can call it pros and cons. For his advantages, extremely strong. Okay, he's the best DPS in the game for now. Very free to play friendly, works at E0S0, and he doesn't require 5-star supports to function. Okay, the reason why I'm saying this is because you can even substitute your Sunday with Remembrance MC for a worse playstyle because he's simply so strong right now because he's the new character. And because he's not signature reliant, another contender for the fall of Aeon.
Oh no!
High survivability with self-sustain during ultimate makes him one of the most tanky characters after My Day. I say after because while My Day can die and revive in-game, you don't want Phainon to do that, else goodbye ultimate state. I highly recommend pulling for Phainon if you don't have a single version 3 DPS. So you got no D-Herter, Elyskye, Casteris, My Day. I think you should strongly consider pulling for him. However, we are getting Archer for free, so you could consider investing into him instead and save your pulls if Phainon is not interesting to you. Now for his disadvantages, he's not very good for Apocalyptic Shadow as he has no teammates during his ultimate to help break toughness. Ranmei will be very much needed here for your 4th slot. And his 8 turns of his ultimate, although they are extra turns, all of them will still continue to consume action value, so you will lose your action value pretty quickly. You might also struggle a bit in Pure Fiction, as his main AoE attack, the bounce attack, while it works for AoE, it's not the best as bounce is random. Remember, bounce is the best at single target. That's why Yunli and Nexa Castries is so good at single target. Also, no teammates can help him during the ultimate state in a prolonged battle like Pure Fiction. Meaning, whatever turns he gets during his ult is all he has to clear one wave of mobs and 2 waves of mobs with a boss. Also, the AoE, which is your W skill, during your ult forcefully advances all enemies. Sometimes you might not want to advance all enemies. It depends on what their mechanics are. That is all for this video. Thank you for taking the time to watch it. Take care and have a great day. Good luck on your Phainon pulls. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. With that, bye bye.